Great. So I'm very pleased to be joined by Deepak from Verizon, Sander from Expereo, Maciej from Enxoo. We're just going to spend a few minutes talking about what Pascal alluded to earlier, this idea of an LSO product payload factory. So we've seen this graphic already. These are the functional APIs, the business APIs from address validation through quote and order, through to trouble ticketing and instance. And we've got the operational APIs from the service catalog to the service fault management. We've become very familiar with that. But there's also the aspects of the actual products and services that get transacted with those APIs. And we've been very focused on carrier Ethernet for many years, and people assume that the LSO APIs will really be focused on carrier Ethernet, but actually the LSO APIs can be used for any product or service where the payload is defined suitably that it can be used together with the APIs. So more recently, we've come out with the Internet Access product payload, and as we can see here, there's actually a lot of possibility to transact with the LSO APIs, not only the things that get standardized in MEF, like carrier Ethernet and Internet Access and optical transport, and SD-WAN and so on, but we can also use product payloads for a wide range of other areas. And that's what we're going to talk about today. What we see here up on this graphic is basically a roadmap for MEF. 4 quadrants. On the right-hand side, the classic area of layer 0 through layer 3 connectivity. We talked about subscriber and operator carrier Ethernet, Internet Access. We can see there 5G fixed wireless access, satellite connectivity, dark fiber, wave, and so on. On the left-hand quadrant, we have SD-WAN, IoT, network slicing. That lower area, we have a new area of SaaS, which is becoming very relevant. We'll talk about that. But also the more obvious ones like edge computing and power and space. And then, of course, that top quadrant, very important area of cybersecurity. So what I'd like to do is talk with our guests on the panel for a few minutes and just pose 3 questions that we can discuss. So the first question I'd like to ask you is, why is it important to standardize product payloads? Okay, why can't we just use whatever product payloads we want? We tell our partner, this is the product payload I'm using, please use the same. Why is that consistency across the ecosystem important? Deepak?
Happy to start. Pascal kind of laid some of the foundation of this earlier. We look at NAS as an ecosystem play, right, at a global context. So it's not an individual that can serve a customer need around the globe. We need to do this together. And if you're in this room, you're part of this ecosystem. Now, I have my partners in the corner on the network and carrier management side, Christy and Dan. They've been pushing this global relationship with third parties, agnostic of what the asset is, the technology is, how do we, again, serve a customer intent, right? And then Paul is also going to talk tomorrow about how we want to enable the secure NAS to our customers. There are many, many aspects, different product components that have to come together to make that intent-based model work for our customers, a programmable model that is simple for folks to use. For that to happen across the ecosystem, we have to make the integration work. It has to be standardized, so the developer experience is going to be simple.
Maybe I'm gonna answer your question, Daniel, from a little bit different and a practical perspective. So we as a company, we're helping service providers to basically set up their BSS applications. And a critical piece of almost our project is to help them model product catalogs, because that's an important piece of the functionality that you need to in your BSS, right? And myself, I practically, you know, like spend maybe 10 or I had 10 or 12 cases where I sit with service providers on the workshops, you know, talking about their catalog, workshopping, learning about that, and you know, at the end of the day, we frequently see that, you know, everyone is pretty much selling the same stuff, and I think that avoiding the reinventing the wheel each time that we model these products, it's very critical to kind of provide a guideline, right? How these products should look in the BSS OS environment, and that's really, you know, simplifying, right, stuff in the ecosystem. And as you said, Deepak, right, it also enables the interoperability then, because if I'm selling internet, right, I need to understand what the internet is, and I think.
Yeah, I mean, Sander, you.
Clearly. Oh. This one doesn't work. Okay. This one, yeah. Good. I'll pick it up from there. Yeah, thanks. I agree almost, but not entirely, right? So I do think why we need to talk about standardization of the product payloads is to be able to manage a particular customer experience and predictability across an ecosystem. And I think the role that we try to do here within this community is that between us we can actually manage that. If you look at for those who do not know what Expereo is, we manage an intelligent internet platform whereby we bring together almost a few thousand local ISPs into a marketplace that we offer back to our customers, both towards wholesale customers, carriers like yourself, and the enterprise direct. And particularly towards our wholesale customers, this is where we see predictability about what I ask, and do I know what I'm going to get back? That is all going to be determined by this product payload. So you have to standardize, otherwise you don't know what you're going to get. And that's going to translate into a bad customer experience. I do think, because the world is so big, and we cannot assume that connectivity is a commodity, there are so many variances out there, and there will be players like ourselves that act as a buffer between the wider carrier community and all these thousands of local options to make sure, again, that the predictability comes back. And with that, the customer experience that both ourselves as well as our carrier customers would like to get.
Great. So looking at this picture, I guess you're not going to be interested in all these product payloads. So how do we prioritize them? I sort of guess what's important to Expereo. Is it just one product payload that's of interest to Expereo? Or would you look at that and say, actually, there are areas that we could branch into that would be relevant for us? Where would you prioritize?
Well, let me start with the right side, layer 0 to 3. As Expereo, we consume all kinds of last mile technologies. So all those Ethernet access, 5G, satellite connectivity, and they will all have their own unique payloads. So we need to understand what we're getting from all of our local partners globally. And we're translating this back into internet access, which can run across many different technologies, but in a predictable fashion back to our customers. So this is where we will particularly focus, as we see that this is where the biggest need is. We do all of this to bring all of our customers back into the cloud connectivity. So you see that we're also coming out with Cloud Connect and cloud enhancement services. So we're starting to branch out into some of these other fields as well, SD-WAN and the Cloud Connect and the Cross Connect.
Great. Deepak?
Every part of what you see here is of interest to us, and we're very excited about this, right? I'm going to touch very high level on a few of those, but I encourage this team to come tomorrow, listen to Paul. He is our lead driving everything that we do on secure NAS at a global scale. And he's going to cover a lot, if not all of this. Right, Paul? Right? And there are, the wireline side is typically how we've started thinking about with the legacy of Ethernet, right? Ethernet access, E-line, E-lines, and that's where a lot of the thinking started. I know there's been a lot of momentum since then. We've been moving up the stack and moving into the network overlay functions here as well. Every part of it we're interested. And where we are as a wireless service provider, we look at other aspects as well. We looked at fixed wireless access. The technology underlying is just one aspect. That's how we internally manage things. What the customer intent is eventually what we're looking to map that to, and MEF with the abstraction of the services and the product payload allows us to bring that to the table as well. In fact, one more thing we'd be interested as we start scaling that is, how do we think about that even with our private network implementations is one more thing I would add here. So every one of these things are on Paul's radar, on my radar as I drive the entire strategy for APIs.
Well, what about that SaaS? Because we discussed it, and
Thank
that's
you.
a really fascinating area
Yes.
that I think is emerging. You
Thank
see
you.
SaaS as a product, right?
Yes, we do. I'm glad you brought that up. Because as we take the network, because eventually what we're doing is when we make it a programmable network, we're offering even network as a service. What customers are eventually passionate about is not just the net. The network is means to get to the application that they want to use, the software that they're delivering, which is a lot of the time today a SaaS. Now, we have started offering SaaS as a part of what we take to the market as well, right? So now, for us, they're just part of your ecosystem partners that Pascal put on the board earlier. The technology partners, SaaS is the components. So that becomes a very important way for us to integrate with them, engage them, and offer a unified experience back to our customers.
Great, thank you. And Maciej, from your point of view?
So you've asked a question about how to prioritize, right? And what I'm hearing from customers is that we definitely need to focus on the places where the biggest volume is. What I see happening in the market is the connectivity is underlay connectivity is the kind of primary use case. So maybe it would be good to mention about all of those works that we are doing within MEF with you in the CBC committee about also reviewing those internet access and other products. So I would emphasize it's still there. And I wanted to also mention that potentially there are some use cases that would be interested to take a look at. One of the things that we are seeing happening, for example, in Europe heavily, is that that kind of continuation of unbundling with the FTTH bitstream access type of use cases, and a lot of volumes are happening there. So I would say, that would be the place, and that should be the driver to kind of prioritize, focus.
Great, thank you. I think just to wrap up, one point I will make is that we've provided the guidelines for creating these product payloads that can then be blended with the LSO APIs using our blending tool. One of the feedback I get is some of the members say, we can't wait for standardization, because they have this idea that standardization is just going to take years and we're going to miss the market. So they want to get something out immediately. And the more quickly MEF moves, then the less consensus we're building. So there's a trade-off here that we have to really address. We don't have the answer, but I think we need to think creatively about how we seed product payloads and how we iterate on them quickly so that we can reach that consensus much more quickly than the typical standardization process. Well, I think we've run out of time now, so unless there are any questions, great. So we'll hand back now to Charlie. Thank you very much indeed to the panel.
Thank you.